Okay, Ji, the topic that we are going to do is indices, and exactly what is indices all about. It is actually you all have seen in your life that there is a number and there is a power on top of a number, like this. So what do you always used to call it? That this is the number and there is a power on top of it. So the number is known as, this variable is known as the base, and the 3 that is written on top of it, this is known as the power, or in other words we can also called it as index. So what actually are we going to learn in this chapter, in this topic, is about if there are more than two uh, indices power forms, how are we going to quickly simplify it and find one value? So there are a few very important properties that we need to actually remember, and I'll go through those properties one by one. So property number 1, property 1. Property 1 states that there are two numbers, and they are both being multiplied with one another. You can see that. And there is one more thing, that is they are common. They have one thing common, and that common thing is, same thing is their base. So there are two things over here, that they have the same base and multiplying to one another. So if that is the situation, what are you going to do? You are going to write down the base just for once, and you are going to add the two powers, just like this. First power plus the second power. Remember that they are the same bases and they are being multiplied. The two numbers over here, they are multiplying to one another. बड़े ध्यान से आपने ये देखनी है बात. Let's do an example for this so that things are a little more clearer. Example 1. For example, it's 2 power 7 multiply by 2 power 3. So you can see that the basis of these two numbers which are multiplying is same. The base is 2 over here, and these two numbers are multiplying with one another. So what are you going to do? You are going to write the base just for once, and you are going to add the two powers, which is going to give you 2 power 10. I hope you all are very well aware what does 2 power 10 means. 2 power 10 means that 2 is multiplied with itself like 10 times. So this is the actual meaning of 2 power 10. Now let's move on to a next property, property number 2, which is very much almost the same as like property 1, with a little difference. And that property is that if there are two numbers, just like the previous property, but these two numbers are dividing, you can very well see that they have the same base and they are dividing. Unlike the previous property जहाँ पर वो multiply हो रहे थे, यहाँ पर they are dividing. So what are you going to do? You are just going to write the base for once, and the power, first power, subtract the second power. Instead of writing it and simplifying it in total, you just need to write down the powers. First power subtracted by the second power, the two numbers which are actually dividing over here. Now comes let's do an example for this. Let's take the same example, the one that we just did above, but with the sign a little different. 2 power 7 divided by 2 power 3. So what are we going to do? You can see that the bases are same and they are being divided. So you are going to write the base just for once, and the powers you are going to subtract it like this. So this is going to become 2 power 4. Now there is another property, property number 3, and what is going to happen in that property? That is, if the two numbers are being multiplied and there is a power on top of it, like n, this power is going to come on top of both the numbers. Like for example, what is the power of on top of A? It is 1. And what is the power on top of B? It is also 1. So this 1 is going to multiply with the power on top of the complete bracket. So it is going to become like this: 1 A power n multiply by B power n. So and a very similar case to this one. Then I am going to give you an example for this. A divide, instead of the multiplication, now the two numbers are being divided, and there is a power on top of whole of this bracket. So this power that is on whole means that it is on complete everything inside. So we are going to write everything inside. A power n divided by B power n. So let me give you an example over here. Example number 3, that is going to relate with, to both of them. And what is that example going to be? Like for example, there is 3 by 2 whole power 7. So you can see that there is a power on top of whole of it. So this power is not just going to come on top of 3, but it is going to be there on top of 2 as well. Let's do another example, a little different from this, and very common. You can say 2x, and there is a whole power of 2 on both of them. So this means that, and you should be very well aware of this, that this 2 and x which are inside, they are multiplying to one another. So this 2 is not just going to come on top of x, जो हम बड़े यूजुअली मिस्टेक करते हैं कि हम खाली x के ऊपर ये नंबर लिख देते हैं पावर में, but it is going to come on top of 2 and it is going to come on top of x as well. So it is going to become 4x square. I hope it makes sense to you all. So the property number 5. Property number 5 states that if there is a power and there is another power on top of it, so what are you going to do? Just remember one thing, that there is a power and there is another power on top of it. So the powers are going to multiply with one another. ठीक है? Power on another power, powers multiply. So that let's do an example for this. For example, it's x power 3 whole power 7. So you can see that actually it is x power 3, but on top of x power 3 there is another power, that is 7. So power on top of another power, they are going to just simply multiply, which is going to become 7 into 3, and a power 21 is going to be the answer for this after simplification. Then comes another property, property number 6. They are not that many, so don't panic at all. They just a few of them are just left. Then comes that if vice versa to the property that I just did above, like for example, if there are two bases, two numbers which have same powers, but the bases of these two numbers are different. So what are you going to do? You are just going to write down the power just for once, and you are going to multiply the two numbers. And same is the case for the division as well. If it's a power n divided by b power n, you can see that the powers are same, so you are going to write on top of whole of it. It's actually the reverse process of the property that we just did above. तो ये बन जाएगा a by b. It's actually the reverse property of the property that we just did above. Then comes up another property, property number 7, and that property is that if the power is negative, there is a negative power. So what are you going to do with the negative power? For example, if it's a power, let me just write it over here on the side, it's a power minus n. So the power over here is negative, so you can make the power positive. यहाँ negative है तो आप इसको positive बना सकते हैं by reciprocating this number. Reciprocating का क्या मतलब है, इसको ऊपर से नीचे ले आएंगे. So it is going to become 1 over a power n. Just look over here that I have only moved the number which have the negative power. I am not going to move any of the other numbers. Let me give you another example for this. For example, it was 2a power minus n. You can see that the power on top of a is negative n. Power on top of a is negative n, and you are interested in making this power positive. So you are just going to move this thing जिसकी पावर नेगेटिव है, इसको ऊपर होगा तो नीचे, और अगर नीचे होगा नेगेटिव तो ऊपर ले आएंगे. तो इट इज गोइंग टू बिकम 2 मल्टीप्लाई बाय 1 ओवर a पावर n. जो नीचे ऊपर था नेगेटिव में, नीचे आके वो पावर पॉजिटिव हो जाती है. लेट मी गिव यू एन एग्जाम्पल फॉर दिस. एग्जाम्पल इज 5 by 3 whole power minus 2. You can see that the power is now on top of, यहाँ पर दो प्रॉपर्टीज हैं असल में. पावर इज नाउ ऑन टॉप ऑफ कंप्लीट ब्रैकेट. सो अभी हमने ऊपर एक प्रॉपर्टी बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट पढ़ी थी जिसमें था कि पावर अगर कंप्लीट पे होगी तो इट विल कम ऑन टॉप ऑफ बोथ द इंडिविजुअल्स लाइक दिस. नाउ what will you do? You want to make this power positive as well as this power positive. आपने दोनों ही पॉजिटिव बनानी है, तो नीचे वाली this is going to move upward, and this upper numerator power, this number is going to come in the denominator. So this is going to become 3 power plus 2 divided by 5 power plus 2, making it as 9 by 25. Let's do another example for this. If it is 3 power minus 2, you can see, in fact let's do a little reverse of it. It's 3 power plus 2 and we need to make this power as negative. So what are you going to do? You are going to write it like this, 1 over 3 power minus 2. उस नंबर को अगर आप नीचे ले आएंगे तो उसकी पावर नेगेटिव हो जाएगी अगर पॉजिटिव है तो. Now there comes another property, property number 8, and a very very important property, property 8. Property 8 states that if there is a number and there is a power of 0 on top of any number, it is always going to be equal to 1. Let me write it in an easy way, that if there is any number, and there is a power of 0 on top of that number, it is always going to be 1, regardless कि वो 100 millions में क्यों ना नंबर हो. जितना भी बड़ा वो नंबर है लेकिन उसकी पावर में अगर 0 है तो वो 1 होता है. Now let me give you an example for this. For example, it is 3 power minus 2, 3 power minus 2 plus 3 power 0. Now you can see that there is the number on which whose top it is written power 0. So this is going to become 1. But what about this one? You are going to make this power positive in order to add. तो इसको उल्टा करना पड़ेगा. It is going to become 1 over 3 power 2. So you very well know that 1 over 3 power 2 is 1 by 9 plus 1. So this is going to become 10 by 9. Just a simple addition of the two numbers. Now next property, property number 9. Property number 9 tells you that it's a little different from the upper property, that if there is a power of 1 on top of a number, the number is never going to change. For example, इसको भी ज़रा डिटेल में लिखता हूँ. Any number and there is a power of 1 on top of that number, it is not going to change. For example, if it is even like whatever, it is going to remain the same. It is not going to change at all. So a very important part with respect to the examiner, very important with respect to the examiner, क्योंकि ये सबसे ज़रा डिफ़िकल्ट चीज़ है, तो एग्जामिनर ऑलवेज असेस द स्टूडेंट्स ऑन अ लिटिल ट्रिकियर थिंग. वो क्या है? It is known as fractional indices. Fractional indices या इसको फ्रैक्शनल पावर भी कह लें, एक ही बात है. अच्छा, व्हाट इज इट अबाउट? फ्रैक्शनल से आपको वर्ड क्लियर हो रहा होगा. फ्रैक्शन का क्या मतलब है? इट इज इन द फ्रैक्शन फॉर्म. लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ इट इज रिटन रूट ऑफ एक्स, सो रूट ऑफ एक्स को आपने याद रखना है. एक्स की पावर में इस वक्त 1 लिखा है और देयर इज अ रूट, स्क्वायर रूट बना हुआ है, तो स्क्वायर रूट का मतलब है 2. तो जब इसको आपने पावर की फॉर्म में लिखना है तो आपने याद रखना है कि ऊपर फ्रैक्शन में आएगा लेकिन न्यूमरेटर में पावर आएगी, और डिनोमिनेटर में रूट आएगा. I hope it's making sense to you all. Let's do another example so it's a little more clearer. It's x power 2 and the cube root, it's a cube root of 3. So how are you going to write it? आपको बताया है कि बेस उसी तरह लिखनी है ऐसे. पावर जो इसके नंबर की पावर है वो न्यूमरेटर में आएगी, और जो पावर है वो यहाँ पर 2 है, तो 2 न्यूमरेटर में आएगा, डिवाइडेड बाय, ऊपर फ्रैक्शन ही है ये, दिस टोटल इज अ फ्रैक्शन, और डिनोमिनेटर में 3 आ जाएगा. तो दिस इज गोइंग टू बिकम x पावर 2 by 3. आई होप it makes sense to you. Now there are a few questions that usually comes in the paper, और हम उसको देखेंगे कि हम उसको किस तरह we are going to solve them. For example, if it's written over here 8 power 2 by 3, so how are you going to simplify it? अच्छा, सबसे पहले देखना है कि that this number should be there in a very simple form. Can you find of a number that is in a power form and give you 8? Yes, it is 2 power 3. So instead of 8, I am going to write it as 2 power 3, and on top of that there is going to be 2 by 3. You are very well aware कि पावर की पावर होती है तो वो मल्टीप्लाई होती है. It is going to become 3 multiply by 2 by 3. ये फ्रैक्शंस आपस में सिंप्लीफाई होंगी and you are going to get 2 power 2, which is going to give you an answer of 4. ठीक है? अब there can be various questions. For example, 27 2 power 3. Let's do this one. It's very similar to the upper one. You need to find of such a number that if you take the power of that number, it still gives you 27. So that number is going to be 3 power 3. 3 power 3 का क्या मतलब होता है? 3 multiply by 3 multiply by 3. It is going to give you 27. So instead of 27, you can write it as 3 power 3. और पूरे टोटल के ऊपर भी पावर लिख दें, होल पावर 2 by 3. नाउ पावर्स की पावर्स आपस में क्या होती हैं? दे मल्टीप्लाई. तो 3 power 3 multiply by 2 by 3. These can be simplified and you are going to get an answer 3 power 2, which is 9. जी, is it clear? देयर कैन बी क्वेश्चंस लाइक ये तो अभी हम कर रहे हैं ना, लाइक सिंपल नंबर्स, बट देयर कैन बी डेसिमल नंबर्स एज वेल, decimal numbers and powers. So how are you going to deal with them? Look over here, it's very simple. It's like for example, if it is like 0.4 whole power minus 3. Now remember one thing, that decimals जब भी अगर पेपर 1 में आ जाएगा तो decimals are not that easy to handle. So always try to convert these decimals into fractional form. तो 0.4 अगर आप देखें तो इसकी fractional form होती है 4/10. ठीक है, बेशक आप इसको simplify भी कर लें तो it is going to become 2/5. Now instead of this 0.4, you are going to write it as 2 power 2/5, and there is a whole power of minus 3 on top of it. Now this power is going to multiply with both the fraction, both the numbers in the numerator as well as in the denominator. तो ये क्या बन जाएगा 2 power minus 3, और नीचे वाले के साथ क्या बन जाएगा 5 power minus 3. ये भी ऊपर हमने क्वेश्चन ऐसे किया था. तो इफ़ वी वांट टू मेक द पावर्स पॉजिटिव, ये नीचे वाली पावर ऊपर आ जाएगी, पावर के साथ साथ नंबर भी, और ऊपर वाला नंबर नीचे आ जाएगा. सो दिस इज गोइंग टू बिकम 2 power 3 एंड द न्यूमरेटर इज गोइंग टू बी 5 power 3. सो दिस कैन बी फर्दर सिंप्लीफाइड एज 125/8. इसको आप सिंप्लीफाइड फॉर्म में ऐसे आंसर लिख सकते हैं. नाउ द लास्ट एंड अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज दैट इफ यू वांट टू सॉल्व एन इक्वेशन, solve and find the value of x, solve and find the value of x, y, a, b, whatever it is. How are you going to do it? Look over here. It is going to be, if it is for example x power 2/3, let me give, this is the first example, x power 2/3, and it is equal to 64. How are you going to do it? You are just simply going to, when यहाँ पर पावर है ना और आपने x को अकेला करना है, you are just going to take this power to the other side, और वहाँ जाकर ये उल्टा हो जाएगी. जिस तरह यहाँ पर लिखी है वहाँ जाकर इसके उल्टा हो जाएगी. So it is going to become 64 power 3/2. So ये अब आप उसको सिंप्लीफाई कर सकते हैं x की वैल्यू फाइंड आउट करने के लिए, एंड दैट्स वेरी इजी. That is 64. Find out such a number जिसकी पावर में अगर आप कुछ लिखें तो it becomes 64. So it can be in the table of 2, it can be 4, it can be 8. Let's start with 4. So 4 multiply by 4 multiply by 4, it is going to give you 64, and the whole power is 3/2. Okay, now this is going to become a little trickier question. Let's move on to a little different number, and what is the reason? Because their power are not going to simplify. 4 power 3 multiply by 3/2, these powers are not going to simplify over here, so we are not going to write it like this. Let's find out another number. इसी तरह का कोई ऐसा और नंबर जिसको हम पावर में लिखें और 64 आए. Yes, it is 8 power 2, and whole power it is going to be 3/2. Now the power on top of another power, they are going to multiply. तो 8 power 2 multiply by 3/2, ये डिनोमिनेटर ये सिंप्लीफाई हो जाएगा. तो x is equal to 8 power 3, which is going to give you 512. So this is going to be the value of x. It can be a little different question. Let's do another example, and the last one for today. That is x power 3 is equal to 27. Now I told you अभी ऊपर वाले एग्जाम्पल में कि जब ये पावर इस साइड पे लिखी है तो उस साइड पे जब जाएगी ये उल्टी हो जाती है. तो यहाँ पर पावर 3 का मतलब है 3/1. जब उधर जाएगी ये पावर तो दिस इज गोइंग टू बिकम 27 power 1/3. नाउ यू नीड टू फाइंड आउट सच अ नंबर जिसको आप पावर की फॉर्म में लिखें और 27 आए, तो दैट नंबर इज 3 पावर 3, विच मीन्स 3 मल्टीप्लाई बाय 3 मल्टीप्लाई बाय 3, which is 27 actually. So instead of 27 you are going to write it as 3 power 3, and there is going to be a whole power of 1 by 3. तो पावर्स की पावर्स आपस में मल्टीप्लाई हो जाती हैं, तो दिस इज गोइंग टू गिव यू 3 पावर 3 मल्टीप्लाई बाय 1 by 3. ये सिंप्लीफाई होके द वैल्यू ऑफ एक्स दैट यू कैन हैव इज गोइंग टू बी 3. I hope you have understood the concept of indices now, and you have liked the video. Please do share with your friends as well, so that they can also learn about indices. Thank you.